Three, two, one, and I'm going to pass the mic over to Chris.
Hello, guys. Welcome to another episode of the SHB Unfiltered Podcast. Today is episode number, Ruben?
48.
Episode 48, which means we have been going live every day for 48 days straight. 48 days straight. Wow. That's a long time. That's commitment. That's what we originally set out to do. And to be honest, I'm beginning to get a bit upset to think that this could potentially be coming to an end soon. But let's see how it pans out. I am joined here today. I am Chris Jackson, but I'm joined here today with Ruben Pillai and Ayo Edisanya. And today we will be talking about how productive is it to purely be involved in stuttering relating work. So, but before we do that, before we get into the meaty stuff, just want to ask the guys, Ruben, how's your day been?
My day's been amazing, man. Amazing. It's been a really long day. I've been up since 6 a.m. I think I've said many times here that I'm an early riser. So I was busy doing work in the morning at 6, then took a break to join the SHB 7 a.m. reading club every day. 7 a.m. reading John Harrison's Redefining Stuttering. Jumped off. Every morning I do my training as well, fitness training, finished that. Then had meetings first thing at work. So I was prepping for meetings. I had back-to-back today. So by the time it hit 10:30, I had already had around 3 hours worth of Zoom calls if you include the reading club and things with work. So I'm not feeling tired by that point. The rest of the day was good. I got my new mic, as you can see, that came around 2 hours ago. So I'm loving it. Over to you, Chris.
You were well excited when that showed up at the door.
I kept my cool when the postman came. I ran upstairs and plugged this in at ASAP. But I'm looking forward to spending a lot of quality time with this mic.
I can see that the background's a little bit different today, Ruben. What's happened there?
Change of scenery. However, I will delve deeper in as I build up this special place. I had a box room at home, really tiny room that was just full of junk. I was going to turn it into a fitness room because it was like a small space. I got clearance from the missus to do that. But I thought I'd invest in the table this week, and lo and behold, it's turning into my little studio / office / fitness corner, actually. So I'm looking forward to turning this into a proper Ruben room and have my own personal space, which I'm sure will be invaded at some point by the other half. But compromise, right? Compromise is the key word here.
Yeah. Initially, you might have the all clear, but we'll see in a few months' time if there's something else in that room. We'll have to come back to that. Ayo, how you been?
Yes, I've had a great day. Like Ruben, I woke up at 6 a.m. I started a new routine where I'm up at 6, then we have the reading club at 7, then I do some workouts at 8 o'clock, and then I go for a walk, come back, do some more work. I'm listening to a book, to an audio book called The Compound Effect. It's absolutely amazing, and it's making me rethink how I do things and how I can improve my productivity by tracking myself and making sure I hit consistently goals by persistence and being consistent with the small choices I make day to day. So that's been really cool, really cool. I had a wonderful call with someone who has no connection to the stuttering community, but has a stutter, and he overcame his stutter all by himself. He no longer has hard blocks. He's in his late 40s now, I think. He no longer has hard blocks, and he did that through sheer persistence. That was an amazing eye-opening Zoom call. We spoke for hour and a half. That was amazing, yeah. So my day's been really good and productive.
That's great. I'm sure we'll come back to your conversation with him later on in this episode. Just want to touch upon my day and what I've been through today. I, unlike Ruben and Ao, did not wake up at 6 a.m. I woke up about 8:30. I had a lie-in. Well, to be honest, recently that's been quite early for me, even though I'm a bit ashamed to say that. I had a Greek lesson this morning. My second Greek lesson now, which was quite cool. I really want to commit to learning how to speak Greek properly, even though I knew the odd word here and the odd word there. Now I'm committed to that also. So I will be factoring that into my goals and my plans for the future. And today I was working on some other stuff that I'm doing in the podcast world, which was really cool. So just upping the skills there. So this now brings me on to the topic of today, lads. The topic of today. How productive is it to purely be involved in stuttering related work? Now, when people are working on their speech and they want to get involved with working on their speech, the tendency is to work on their speech in the stuttering world. And I got involved in as many stuttering communities as I possibly could. I was involved in as many stuttering areas as I possibly could, talking to as many people who stutter as I possibly could, trying to pick their brains, trying to find out what worked for them, how they improved. But then I wanted to take it further once I got more control over my speech and started to do more and more work within the stuttering world. Now, guys, I just want to get a bit of background from the two of you. How involved were you in the stuttering world when you started to work on your speech? Start with Ruben.
Oh, Chris, that's a good question. And the answer to that question is 0%. So before I actually started to work on my speech and look to improve my own communication skills, I did not have any involvement in the stuttering community, the stuttering world. I had previously gone through NHS speech therapy, but hadn't done anything for a number of years before joining a clinical study in 2016, 2015, which then led me to kind of start embarking on real speech improvement and addressing the mindset of stuttering, etc. But before that, I did not see kind of that much value added from me being part of the community, because I was seeking to improve my communication skills. And the only reason why I'm kind of pushing a lot of things out now and I'm a big part of Stop Holding Back and all these podcasts and great things that we're doing is because I believe that I have found success with speech. I managed to kind of conquer some of my, well, not conquer, but achieve some of my dreams. You want to conquer dreams. And I want to convey the lessons I've learned and that experience to help other young people like me, because to be honest, like it will be a waste if I don't actually share this with someone else. In fact, it will be selfish if I didn't, to be honest. That's the way I kind of see it. I don't know if Ao feels the same way, but I'll let him tell you a bit more.
If you can repeat the question again, Chris, please, briefly.
When you started to work on your speech, how involved were you with stuttering community, or how much work were you doing in the stuttering world when you first started to work on your speech?
The only reason why I joined the stuttering community was to improve my speech, to improve my potential money capacity, so I can earn more money. That's the only reason why I joined the stuttering community. And since working on my speech, I've been heavily involved in it. But there comes a point where you hit a roadblock for myself, and I had to take myself away from the stuttering community and create a different type of community with Stop Holding Back, with you and Ruben, where we focus more on people, on interacting with people who don't stutter. And I found that far more beneficial than what confines when I hit a certain level, to remain working and being with the stuttering community for myself.
How important do you think it is at the beginning of the journey to be involved in stuttering related work? Is it something that you think you should try to focus on, maybe not quite as much as getting involved in other work? Do you think there is a place for it in the early days of your journey?
I purely believe that first of all, you should look to help yourself first. I think it's easy to kind of like maybe try to fill that void by kind of trying to help other people, but if you can actually help yourself and improve yourself, then you are more value to other people. Because I know it's nice and kind of like sweet and fun to say, yeah, I just want to go and help out and like be part of this, which is really good, really good. But the bottom line is, people who stutter, ideally they would want to be able to speak a bit better, especially when it matters to them. And if they tell you otherwise, like, I'm sure there would have been a point where they have accepted it, etc. But there is always part of them that would want to actually step up and improve their communication skills. Now, for someone who's embarking on kind of, joining a group or just the stuttering community in general, you got to ask yourself, why are you joining? What's your intention? Is it just to meet other people who stutter and kind of feel part of something? Because if you don't have many friends or just don't really have people around you that are healthy and understand what's happened to you, then is that the reason why you're joining? Or is the reason why you're joining to find help to actually improve your speech? Then it becomes more important to actually find the right people. Because the problem is, there is a lot of misinformation out there, and a lot of people pushing agendas that, like, to them, they will fully believe that what they're doing is the right thing, and it's true. It is the right thing from their perspective, but stuttering isn't the same for everyone. So it's important to go in with an open mind and don't kind of cash in too quickly. Really kind of meet a lot of people, assess which groups have your vibe and which can actually take you forward. That's the main thing. Because I've been saying it again, like with SHB, what are we doing? Daily reading clubs, weekly webinars, active WhatsApp group talking about everything from the mindset to physical tools, bombs, daily podcast. What's it? Episode 48 now. Like we are actually trying to do something and share information. Like I can't speak for some of the other groups because I'm not fully part of them. I just can see some of what they're doing out there. But I can honestly put my hand in my heart and say that we are kind of at the moment doing a lot more than some of these other groups. And that's purely because we feel that we have value to give people. And that's what, and if I was kind of brand new again, and if I had a choice, I would want to find a podcast, people like this, people doing kind of things that they wanted to do, pursuing goals that they were dreaming of when they were blocking as a kid. This is what we're doing now. We are living our dream. We are honestly living our dream. And that's the bottom line, isn't it?
Precisely. Ayo, do you want to add anything to that?
Yeah, it's all about the right support. You shouldn't just join any community just for the sake of joining a community because you feel like these people are the same as you. But the issue is, it's difficult to find the right community when the biggest communities in Stuttering more or less have a focus on acceptance, a different kind of acceptance to what we believe in at Stop Holding Back. They tend to push the idea that you have to accept your stuttering in its current state, and we fundamentally at Stop Holding Back do not believe in that or promote that. I actually think
there, sorry, bro. Sorry. I was going to stop you there because just a counter argument to that is that other group, they could say, well, if Stop Holding Back, if they don't actually kind of accept stuttering in their current state, then is that true acceptance?
basically,
I'm just playing devil's advocate here. I'm Stop Holding Back, remember?
I know you're right. Yeah, that's a good question. Good question. No person who stutters has to accept their current state of stuttering. That's a choice you make. You can, and that's fine. There's nothing wrong with stammering or stuttering. That's for sure. But scientifically, and speaking to people who have actually overcame their stuttering, who were severe stutterers at one point in their life, they did not accept their current state of stuttering 20 years ago. And now they speak how they want to speak. So based on that, I believe that as a person who has a speech impediment, you have the choice if you want to work on your speech.
Is this one person in particular or just a few people? Or is this theoretical?
This is a number of people I've spoken to. I've spoken to at least, I would say around six people who have overcame their stuttering completely on their own. It's taken them about 30 to 40 years, but they no longer stammer. Based on that, I choose to be like them eventually. And that's how I feel, because I believe I can. And we promote working on our speech so we can one day achieve that. But if not, it doesn't matter, because we will be at that time better communicators.
Thank you very much, Ayo. I just want to quickly turn our attention to the Facebook feed. We've got a few people joined us, and we've got a comment from Kieran. He says, hey, how can we overcome stammering and for us to keep it up? Just want to say that there's a lot of information out there that SHB offers. I would recommend to listen to the podcast from episode 1. It will be really beneficial. However, we also do have our live Q&As every Saturday morning at 8 a.m. that you can use the link in our bio, and there's a few posts on our Facebook and Instagram about it where you can register your interest. You will be sent a link to join that on Saturday morning at 8 a.m. and we will be answering questions such as that. But what I wanted to dig a bit deeper into is, Ruben, you mentioned in your answer that there's a lot of misinformation out there, and people are not 100% sure with their why when they first start working on their speech. And correct me if I'm wrong, but you implied that why plus misinformation can be a formula for something quite counterproductive. Am I correct in that?
I didn't kind of mention the formula, but I'm actually gutted that I didn't put that one together, Chris. So congratulations on that equation.
Well, I'm just using what you've provided. But do you think a reason for the misinformation is that people tend to work on their speech, and because they're looking at other people that are helping them, they just want to be in a position to be able to help others so soon that they lose track of the actual journey and their actual why, and they focus too much on the coaching element. So they want to get involved in speech related or stuttering related work almost instantly, before they've had their own journey, before they've even experienced much at all. They just can't wait to get to a level so they can now coach other people and help other people and give back to a community, because there's some type of potentially seniority involved. There's some type of achievement involved, self-aspiration for them, that they're losing track of their original why, and their why changes really quickly into their journey. What do you think about that, guys?
Yep, I think you answered it, Chris. No, I think with that particular thing, we can actually go into a whole episode about this, because I think we have actually mentioned certain aspects about this previously, and it's something I saw from some of my experiences where for so long you've been stuttering, so you consider yourself, or some people even consider themselves below average people compared to their peers or colleagues or friends, even because of their ability to communicate was like poor. Now with like coaching, for example, coaching is a funny one because it's such a loose term and it's thrown about so much. What is a coach? Like, what really is a coach? And is a coach the same as a mentor, or just someone that you can ask a question to, or someone just to talk to even? What is a coach? And this term has been used many times within stuttering community. And what this does is it's something to aspire to as a person who stutters, right? Imagine that you can turn the tables on your speech for the first time in your life and actually join the counterattack. However, if you aren't able to save yourself, how can you save other people? Because quite a few people who are kind of coaching, they may go in there too early. So they don't know how to actually address some of their own issues. What's that old saying? Those who can't do, teach. Now, I'm not saying that all coaches can't implement it, but there has to be kind of some accountability on the coach. Remember the story I told you about the monastery, the Kung Fu one, where every month the main teachers have to balance their torso on that flipping sword and spin on it. And if they don't get their breathing right and get their chi right, they die. So that's their version of accountability. Because how are you going to be able to trust someone who's going to put you through so many hard exercise and torture, how can you kind of like get their buy-in if they aren't demonstrating something even more than that to you? So in the same way, like contributing towards the stuttering community, you can get involved with events and stuff. But that's the two sides I see. There's coaching, and then there's actually just helping out and kind of like being part of a group and attending events, handing out leaflets, and just kind of like being part of supporting awareness, for example. But there needs to be like you have to first be selfish, and you can't go after like certificates and badges and stuff, because in the end, like you join for speech improvement, and if you deviate away from that goal, then you are playing the wrong game, and you are being a detriment to your own life and your own career and your own aspirations.
Just to add, I think a lot of people join the community or some community involved in stuttering to get help, but eventually they get sucked into the culture of that community, which is not always about self-growth of the individual. It's more about perpetuating the growth of the community at the detriment of the individuals. That is the case in some specific programs, and it's the case in the wider community. And people who have stutters need to be aware of this and need to maintain awareness of why they want to join any sort of community, forget stuttering, any sort of community in general. What is the benefit you want to attain from joining said community? It's very important, and a lot of people in stuttering lose that sight. And this is why I do not really integrate myself in other communities involved in stuttering. I focus on Stop Holding Back because I'm getting a benefit from Stop Holding Back. It's making me push myself where it counts in my real life. And I think Ruben feels the same way, and you, Chris. It's all about using a community or a club or a relationship as a benefit to improve yourself. You have to be selfish. You, as a human being, you owe it to yourself to improve your life first, and then you can improve other people's lives. And people lose sight of that, and they lose themselves, and then they wonder why 20 years down the line they are still in the same position as they were when they joined said club or community.
Boom.
Thank
That
you
20
very much.
years. So I was gonna say that 20 years it just keeps popping up. Is that like the sweet spot?
I've met people in certain stuttering communities who have been in there for 20 years and their life has not changed. Still doing the same job, still complaining, still whining about lots of things. And then I ask them, so why are you still here? They can't answer.
Well, that brings me on to my next question, to be honest, Ayo, because you talk a lot about the real world, or the real world as opposed to the stuttering community or your outside world. A question that I have is, where do you feel the true role models are then? For people who stutter, do you feel that the true role models, or not true role models, but do you feel role models that should be looked at more are within the stuttering community, or do you think they operate outside of the stuttering community?
That question is so emotionally charged for me, and it gets me really see, my speech is getting worse now because of the emotion I'm feeling. It gets me really angry. Angry because the real heroes, in my opinion, this is not a Stop Holding Back opinion. This is my personal opinion. The real heroes are the people who have done something about their speech and are now living their dream, now living the lives they want to live. And those people are not sought sought after. No one is asking them questions. How did you stop stuttering? How did you do it? Where are these people? John Havison said the same thing. He overcame stuttering at the age of 30. He gave speeches and not a single SLT asked him, how did you do it? This is the problem, and it makes me sick because people are depressed, suffering, being told that they have to accept their stuttering when they absolutely do not. There are tons and tons of people who no longer stutter. Yeah, I said it. They no longer stutter. Stuttering is not permanent. And there are people at the top who are feeding misinformation that you have to accept it. You have to accept your stutterer. Like, I feel like crying sometimes. Like, it makes me sick to my stomach. I hate it with a passion. And I want to help people and tell them that you don't have to stutter the way you stutter now. You have a choice to work on your speech and achieve what you want to achieve and become a better communicator. You can carry on.
All right. Ruben, anything to add to that? I'm sure you got something to add.
I just want to say wow, because I think not that many people feel the same way as you, which is a shame because there's a lot of truth in that. And when you kind of speak about the role models, Chris, if I'm being honest with me personally, the role models I have, they aren't even people who stutter, because the role models I'm kind of looking up to and working to and kind of aspiring to as well, they are just public speakers and interviewers, communicators. I don't actually isn't kind of a dig or some kind of smart ass answer or anything, but I don't really look up to kind of anyone in that capacity within the stuttering community. I respect a lot of people there. I hold the two of you guys as well very, very highly. But it's important that when you actually think of role models, why is that person your role model? Are you looking to kind of be in some way like them, or try to achieve something they have achieved? Or do you simply respect what they've done and kind of in their awe? And I only really get those feelings with specific people outside of the stuttering community, within the public speaking forums and the kind of interview and the podcast scene as well. Like in the past, so I think I mentioned that I used to be a football coach. So I used to work for Crystal Palace Football Club in Premier League, established, and did work for the FA and Kick It Out and a few other charities. And my role models there, they were some of the coaches, because I was like, man, like, these guys are really good. Got full control over the group, troublesome kids. But the thing they had in common were they were effective communicators. Just everything, like they could walk in a room and straight away, like, all the kids would just be quiet, sit down, just pure body language, pure just the way they vibed. Now that was what I was aspiring to. That was what I was exposed to, like, every day, every other day for 2 years. So eventually, when you actually, when I started to get involved with the stuttering community, and this was after that period, I didn't feel that same way with any other people there, because I was still aspiring to kind of to gain qualities of these other people. It's kind of like really good communicators, really good facilitators, really good leaders, teachers, instructors. And it isn't like a bad thing if you have role models within or without the stuttering community. That's completely up to you. However, it is important to actually have a vision of where you want to be. And I kind of like try to actually think, okay, so this person, they are 10 years older than me. So if I could be like 50% of what they are in 10 years time, I'll be happy. Or 25%, something like that. You have to have something to aim for. You can't just aimlessly because stuttering isn't like scouts or like a football club you're just part of for 20 years and kind of, you know, like you are here because of you came because of a reason, then you forgot why you joined.
Wow, you forgot why you joined. Ruben, you need to say that again. Say it one more time.
You came for a reason, but then you forgot why you joined.
Bombshell. Chris,
It's true. It's true. Dude, no, it's true. And I've had conversations with people about this before. And I'm saying, like, what are you doing? You are working on this piece just to impress a few people for one weekend. What are you doing?
Oh my God, you're kidding us. You're kidding them, Ruben. You're kidding them.
Over to you in the studio, CJ.
Over to me. I do think it's something that I've witnessed a lot in the stuttering community. There's people who stutter that they're looking at stuttering role models to help them with all aspects of their life and all aspirations that they have. I think that is an issue within itself, because now you're fully labeling yourself as a stutterer and that you are unable to achieve what a non-stutterer has achieved. So what people tend to do, and what I've seen with my own eyes, so I don't feel like I'm talking out of turn here, but I've seen that people create stuttering related Instagram pages and their only inspiration on there are people that stutter. So if they have aspirations to become an actress, they only focus on actors and actresses that have stutters. But do you not appreciate the work of other actors and actresses? Is there not an actor or actress that you aspire to be more so like than another actor just because they stutter? They could be in films that you hate, or you may not like their style, but it can be forced sometimes. I remember when I started to work on my speech, I was part of a particular group and I was told to get in contact with a certain person. And I was like, okay, well, why do you think I should get involved with this person? Or why do you think I should contact this person? Oh, because they have a stutter and they run a business. So you might be able to get pointers off of them. I was like, okay. Now I found out later that his business had nothing to do with the line of work that I was in. So yeah, you can talk to them and you can find out what they done and how they achieved it. But ultimately, I was in recruitment. So I went out and I found a mentor that was 10 or 15 years in front of me in the recruitment game. And I picked their brain. And I started to work with them on a weekly basis. And I was being mentored by someone outside of the stuttering community, but mainly because I knew it would be more beneficial for me and what I was trying to learn at that particular time. Now, if you could find that person and they have a stutter, then great, but I wouldn't limit yourself only to that, because like Ruben said, you started to work on your speech for a reason. And that reason is to be able to manage yourself a lot better, more competently within the fluent world. So to only focus your energy on finding your role models within the stuttering community limits yourself straight away.
For me, I have one role model in the stuttering community, well, was, and that is John Harrison. And that's because he overcame his stutter. All my other role models do not have stutters. They are people in the fluent world, if you want to call it, doing big things, and I want to be like them. So
People in the world, you mean? People in the world.
People in the that's a better way to say it. People in the world who are doing things I aspire to do eventually. I think people who start need to have that type of mindset, or they will find themselves forever thinking about their stutter and how it's holding them back.
Forever, ever. CJ, what do you have?
Chris,
Come on, man.
Wow, cool.
Keep rolling, bro. Keep it rolling. Stop laughing at my jokes.
No, sorry. Ruben caught me off guard there with that little ad-lib there. So what I wanted to touch upon now, Ayo, I wanted to go back to the individual that you mentioned earlier and just give us a bit more of an insight into the conversation you had and what that individual did to overcome their stuttering or the fears around their speech block.
Great. So this person, he found me on YouTube. He watched an interview with me and someone, and he contacted me. And he said he wanted to speak to me and learn a bit more about Stop Holding Back and what we do, as he felt like we were doing big things and we are actually making an impact. And he wished that he had an organization like us when he was younger. To cut a long story short, we had an 1.5-hour Zoom call, and it basically went like this. He just explained his story. He was an overt stutterer. He could not say a single word up until the age of around 30. 25, then he started to take action on his speech, and he overcame his stuttering completely. He still stutters, but he no longer has hard blocks. That is crucial. He no longer has hard blocks where he's choking and he's not able to say a word for 10 plus seconds.
Ayo, just a quick one. So yeah, that's fine. But what would he class as soft blocks? Just for those listening on, because for some people, stuttering is stuttering, isn't it? So like,
yes.
if you want, you can demonstrate as well. Demonstrate as well if you want. Sorry.
So he talks a bit like this. Daniel, the car. Yeah, went. I'm just about to go to the. It's very smooth stuttering. Whereas before, he said he was like this. For about 30 seconds. He no longer has those experiences.
That's quite funny, because for some coverts, even that soft stuttering might be too much, which is interesting, isn't it?
Yeah. It's interesting how he's done it. And from my perspective, he wasn't lying. He wasn't avoiding words, which is what a lot of coverts do. He wasn't avoiding words. He was very open and honest, very fluid. He says off the bat, I still stutter, but at the same time, I feel like I don't stutter because it's not in his head. And sometimes he doesn't really see himself stuttering, but he gets people saying, "Oh, you got a stutter?" And he's like, "Oh yeah, I do, like a tiny one." And yeah, he laughs about it.
Hey, I just want to pick up on something you said there, because I know that people will be listening and they'll be saying, yeah, but how do we really know that he's not word swapping? How do we really know that he's not substituting words or avoiding situations and trying to live life within his comfort zone as much as possible? What were some of the things or was he able to elaborate on what he did in terms of word swapping or avoidance? Was he able to touch on that?
The truth is, we will never know. I will never know. I'm going off his word. But what I judge people on is the results. I judge people on what are they doing in real life. He has a really, really good job, and he's a project manager of sort, and he manages a lot of people.
Can you tell us what line of work he's in at the moment?
He's an IT manager. He works for an airline in America. So yeah, he does his stuff, and he was just talking about the journey to get to that point. And the key thing he said that helped him the most to overcome his stuttering to a massive extent, where he no longer thinks about stuttering. He no longer thinks about it, is that when stuttering was affecting his pay, affecting his potential to make money for it, and he got to a point where he almost wanted to take his own life, he had to do something. And he did the unthinkable. He went for a job in a call center. He was doing sales calls. And for 3 months, he said it was the most horrid time of his life. 99% of those calls, he could not speak. He was blocking for 30 seconds at a time. But what he does say is one day, which he's not sure when that day happened, but eventually the hard blocks got less and less frequent. And over time, he stopped having hard blocks because he was just constantly on the phone, speaking, blocking, trying to persevere, trying to say words, trying to find strategies. He was talking about using different strategies to say words. Eventually, he just stopped stuttering to a large extent. And then after that, he went up his career, and now he's doing really well. But the key thing he says is persistence.
Sorry, I'm just curious because that's an amazing example of someone persisting. But how did he deal with the rough time? Because probably along the way, working in a call center can be tricky. What was the vibe like by his colleagues and manager? How are people on the phone? Because if he's speaking all day on the phone for, I don't know how many years he spent there. I don't know exactly what he told you, but did he give any more insight into the experience in the background? Because persistence is good. Persistence is great. It's an amazing kind of skill and attribute, but it's too big to just say he persisted. There's so much that goes into it. There's so many kind of emotional things and other factors, people around you. Are they helping? Are they hindering? Are they part of the problem? Or you part of the problem? So did he give any more insight? Because these would be valuable lessons for people tuning in, people trying to persist through their difficulties as well.
He said this. He had a why, and the why was big enough to see him through any temporary defeat. His why was big enough to see him through any temporary defeat, because you don't really fail until you quit. And he had no alternative. Same as me, why I continue to work on my speech, because I have no alternative. And Chris, I know it's the same.
I think it relates back to what we've spoken about in the past. When you reach that, when you experience enough pain and you know that there is no other option, like for that individual that you spoke to today, he really needed to provide for his family. So financial factors were playing a massive part in him persevering and him being persistent and sticking with it and getting through them difficult times. It'd be interesting to find out what type of call center job he had. Was it commission based? Because that would up the pressure massively as well. Imagine when that pressure's on and you have to get results, and you stick with that, and you don't avoid, you don't turn away, you continue and you stick with it. I think that's the key thing.
Yeah.
Your why needs to be so big that you know that nothing is going to stop you and you're not going to quit at the first hurdle.
He also says he now enjoys public speaking. He loves it, actually. And he loves what he does. And that took him over 30 years. But he was on his own. He had no support network, no mentors, no John Havison, no Chris Jackson or Ruben Pillai or myself in his life. He did it on his own. So it just inspires me to know if he can do it by himself, I have no excuse to get to that point eventually. And I would do it in half the time. That's how I feel about it. It's motivational.
I think that what I would kind of sum up here is that guy's attitude plus WOMs plus the real world is a formula for massive success. Would you all agree?
Yes.
I agree. I completely agree with that.
I think also it's just the exposure therapy. He did his own exposure therapy. He put himself in the deep end and he stayed there for a long time. He didn't do it for 3 days or a week or 6 months. He was in the fire for years. And it takes me back to my experience of working on my speech. And from 2 years ago, and worked on my speech and cancelled everything the way I did for the first year. Imagine where I would be now, 3 years later, the compound effect, all those push through is counterproductive to the version of yourself 10 years from now. Every single block you push through, it adds up over time. And I'm learning that. It's absolutely crazy.
Yeah, it's crazy. Compounding effects, that's a whole topic within itself that we will definitely cover in a future podcast at some time. Ruben, any final words over there, mate?
Yeah, I think kind of there are quite a few valuable points that we can all take from this episode, because it does rethink or make you rethink certain decisions you made, and whether, given the situation that you're in at the moment, you've got to think, is this the best place for me to progress where I want to progress? Because at a certain point of time, it may have been valuable to join a specific group or community, but times change, your goals and ambitions change. So really have a think for yourself, as in, is this the best place for me to grow? Do I have to move on? And it shouldn't be kind of like any hard feelings if you have to go to a different group or just something just to take yourself to the next level, because I repeat this loads of times, but we are all on our journey. We are all on our individual journey. We are individuals, but we happen to be on the same path. And that's purely because of, as in, that's why we started this. It didn't happen by accident. We realized this is our path. Surely we're going to deviate from it slightly in our own individual ways. But this is our path. And for other people, their path is different and their path is different. So don't be afraid to change and make a big change, because you got to think about yourself and your own progression and your own goals. Because if you don't, the years fly by, you'll be 20 years in and you'll still be in the same place where you could have progressed in other areas, which is probably why you joined in the first place. probably why you joined in the first place. And CJ, that's all from me. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Ruben. Ayo?
I'm so thankful for Stop Holding Back. I'm so thankful for Chris, Ruben, Simon Bailey, Ramash, Tom. I'm so thankful I met these guys because we all, in general, believe in the same thing and we all want to progress and get better. It's way more fun to do things in a group than to do things on your own. And it often cuts the time of achieving the things you want to achieve. So I'm just really grateful for what we've built here so far. And I can't wait to see us in 5 years' time, even 3 years' time. It's gonna be on a different.
Thank you very much, Ayo. Ultimately, I think it's about always remembering what your original why was. You will be deviating away from it as you progress, but we always have to remember we started working on our speech because we really wanted to do things that we never thought we would ever be able to do. So as long as we've got that in our minds when we're working on our speech, we should stay on to make the most of our new tools and techniques and mindset shifts in areas that matter most to you as an individual. And only you can truly answer that. Now, Adesanya, I want to say thank you for joining today and always. Guys, I think I'll let Ayo wrap this one up today. Ayo, you can do the honors, mate.
It's been a while. And always remember, stop holding back.